After 9, I'm here with Council President Eric Garcetti and Council Member Wendy Gruhl.
We got a quorum.
We have a quorum, which is wonderful. Why don't we begin? Do we have any consent items?
Madam Chair, no, you don't.
All right.
We have a 7-item agenda.
And how about any continuances?
No, you don't.
Okay,
7
great.
items at,
All right. Well,
Work
let's,
with us, work with us.
how about number 2?
let's go ahead and start with number 1 so that we can help. Is Ms. Munoz here yet?
Has
Come on
she
up.
shown up? No, I don't believe
She's not
so.
here?
She's not here. Okay.
Okay, we'll go to number 2.
Number 2. Number 2 is the Board of Public Works report relative to the Water Integrated Resources Plan Annual Progress Report.
Okay.
Should have
What do we have here to
staff
report on this?
That's Ms. Munoz.
Oh, Ms. Munoz just arrived.
Do you want to go back?
Yeah, let's take, I'm sorry,
Okay.
let's take Ms. Munoz.
Okay. All right. Item number 1, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Irma Munoz to the Environmental Affairs Commission.
Morning.
This
Hi, Ms.
vacancy was
Munoz.
created by Misty Stanford, who resigned on July 13, 2008.
So what objectives or goals are you seeking to implement during the rest of your term on the commission?
Well, good morning, and my apologies for being late.
Okay.
Actually, I feel like I'm bringing a totally different perspective, an enhanced perspective to the board. I started Mujeres de la Tierra 4 years ago, which is an environmental equity organization that actually works with communities and women to provide them with a platform so they can take ownership and leadership of their issues. And so I work actually with the folks whose voice is rarely heard or if ever heard, who are reluctant to give an opinion. And as the city is moving towards becoming the most sustainable and green city in the country, and actually in the world, I think that we need to tap into all of the neighborhoods, all of the residents who traditionally, for whatever reason, do not give their opinion, and we need to engage them in different ways, because sustainability and creating a green LA is about all of us, both individually and collectively, and I think that we've missed a tremendous amount of poor people and communities of color and folks who are reluctant to engage in the process.
What do you think is the biggest problem facing an apartment to date?
I would say their community engagement, community outreach to communicate with the various communities. I think that they have a good plan, a good vision, but if everyone isn't informed about how they can participate and be a part of it, it's for naught.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions from members of the committee?
No, I'm actually quite excited about this appointment. I have a great deal of respect for Ms. Munoz and Mujeres de la Tierra, and been a supporter of the organization. I think it'll geographically to add the balance to the committee the commission that we need. I was also noticing and talking to Ms. Gruhl, it's an all-female commission, so we're expecting great things of you. But congratulations.
All right, well,
Yeah, just add my congratulations. I'm glad you're going to bring your expertise and knowledge and experience to this commission. And you're right, there's a lot of sustainable and green issues that we're either taken positions on, created legislation. We want to make sure they're implemented as well. And I think the commission can be a good watchdog in that way to see that, in fact, that things are being implemented. So we look forward to you coming back to us and telling us where we could do things better as well.
Great, thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank
And
you, Ms.
without objection, we're all supportive of you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 2.
And number 2 is a report from Bureau of Sanitation relative to the Water IRP Annual Progress Report. We have staff from Sanitation and DWP.
Good morning, council members. My name is Doug Walters. I'm with the Bureau of Sanitation, and I'm joined with our partner, DWP.
Good morning, Jim Yanata, Assistant Director of Water Resources, LADWP.
As you know, the IRP, the Water Integrated Resources Plan, is a multifaceted, multi-pronged approach to managing our water, wastewater, and stormwater for 2020 and beyond. It was adopted in 2006 by the City Council, and we've made a lot of progress towards implementing many of the projects and policies in the document. I just wanted to go over a few of the highlights, as this is a council report that's required on an annual basis. The NEAS 2, the Northeast Interceptor 2 project, which is a GO project, is Moving forward, it's in the pre-design phase. That's a 5-mile sewer in the northeast part of the city of Los Angeles, and that's being directed by the Bureau of Engineering. The Valley Spring Lane Interceptor Sewer, which would connect Tillman to potentially the Glendale Burbank Interceptor Sewer, is in its initial planning phase. That's also moving forward. In terms of policies towards maximizing recycled water, we've made a lot of progress in that area. The Balboa and Encino golf courses were brought online using reclaimed water in June of '08.
Oh, I've got a quick question on the Burbank issue,
Yes.
because I know there's been conflict there, and now that you've been in steady communication with the city of Burbank staff, right?
Yes.
What do you see this? How do you see this playing out in terms of the overall goal of the water IRP and resolving any potential conflicts in the future? Are we going to be able to resolve their issues without compromising, the significance of what we need?
That certainly is our hope. This went to the litigation last year, and there were 5 specific mitigation issues that were identified. We just recently hired a consultant firm to address those 5 issues in the EIR with respect to the hybrid alignment that was identified. We have been in touch. I have been in touch with the Burbank staff, and they are comfortable with moving forward on addressing those specific issues.
What's the status of the litigation?
The litigation is done in the sense that we just have to address these 5 issues.
Okay, but it's still pending.
Right. It's technically pending because we need to submit the information back to the court for
So
approval.
this is working towards a possible settlement then?
No, this is actually court-ordered changes to the EIR. So
To resolve the
we took
litigation?
the GBIS out of the EIR earlier this year, and then we're addressing the mitigations, and then we'll amend the EIR with
Okay,
that.
so if all
and that.
points can be met, then litigation will be dismissed?
Correct.
Okay.
Towards maximizing recycled water, we also brought on the Valley Generation Station, which saves enough water for 4,200 homes. The mayor recently released back in May the city's water supply action plan with the ultimate goal of increasing recycled water from 1% to 6%. The Purple Pipe Ordinance, that's something that both our staffs at DWP and Sanitation are working hard to put in place. We'll plan to have another joint board meeting between the 2 commissions later this year. DWP is also working on a study for groundwater replenishment using advanced treated recycled water. And we're still continuing to provide 27 million gallons per day of water to Lake Balboa, Wildlife Lake, and Japanese Gardens outside of our Donald C. Tillman plant, which ultimately supports the baseline habitat needs at the LA River. As far as conserving water, we've got 44 of our city parks using smart or weather-based irrigation. Rebates have been increased for commercial and large landscape and multifamily units for sprinklers, high-efficiency toilets, waterless urinals, and cooling tower pH controllers. LA Unified is also planning to install up to 13,000 of the 1/8 of a gallon urinals so that they use less water in all of their new schools and in existing schools wherever that's feasible. So those are some of the highlights on the conservation side. On the managing runoff side, our SUSUMP requirements for infiltration have been amended by our Board of Public Works back in June. That was to encourage more capture and treat and reuse on-site by developers as opposed to just paying fees and not doing the more responsible thing. The downspout disconnection program received a grant from Prop 12 from the Santa Monica Bay Restoration Committee, and that program is going to be underway soon. Poorest Driveways, an ordinance was passed last September allowing access driveways to be paved with a permeable material, and several city projects are utilizing that process as well. Also, there's a 50% limit on non-porous driveways for single-family front yards, so no longer can you entirely use non-porous material in your on your front yard. Multifamilies were previously approved. So basically, those are the highlights. We continue to engage with stakeholders on making sure that they're up to date and involved in the implementation of all these policies.
All right, thank you. Did you want to add anything?
Well, just as we move forward in order to achieve the water plan for the city of LA, we're going to be having the first a public outreach September 19th for groundwater replenishment. It's really focused in on, what we need to do from a water recycling standpoint, and one of the components of that is groundwater replenishment with advanced treated recycled water. And that's a key element of the plan because that will provide 15,000 acre-foot out of the 50,000 by the year 2019.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members? Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you for the information here about waterless urinals. Is there any movement, rather, on dual flush toilets at all? I know that there was a motion that Mr. Padilla, I think, introduced a while back that I seconded at looking at the feasibility of mandating dual flush toilets. Do you know anything of any talk about that or progress?
At this time, we haven't really made significant progress on it, but it's one of the water conservation measures that we're trying to implement throughout the cities, such as water-based controllers and so forth, but we could certainly get back to you on this specific one later.
Please do, if you can. I know one of the problems before was the lack of American manufacturers. I know there's other countries, Israel, places who mandate that, but we wanted to make sure that there was the technology to do that. Couple other things. The landscape ordinance, I know you talked about California-friendly plants for city projects. You may want to include also our revisions to the landscape ordinance that are in effect, and planning has been using those for commercial projects. We're looking at doing that for residential as well soon as part of water conservation, but also that's been ongoing now for, I think, 2.5 years, and so that has effect on the overall integrated resource plan for water. There's a draft ordinance for or you said there's a draft document, but I don't know if that was a draft ordinance for the individual water meters for apartment buildings. Do you know, can you tell me a little bit more what those draft documents are right now and where we are on that?
We are looking into the feasibility for that. I don't believe it's really gotten too far, other than looking at apartment buildings, putting in individual meters for those. I know they're in water distribution as part of the water system is looking into that, but we'll certainly get back to you on that.
And when you look into that too, and one of the things that's very important to me is looking at ways to incentivize water savings within apartment buildings, so that it's not just. So, I mean, I assume that the individual water meters are on the apartment by apartment basis, and that right now is one of the big problems. There's no incentive to conserve any water for tenants. There's no reward for those that do, and so we often have landlords who have some tenants who are just letting water run all the time, and that costs us all money. One other thing. On groundwater replenishment. So. Talk to me a little bit more. I know we've done Green Street project. We have a second one that's coming up on that. How comprehensive are we looking at other things beyond using the recycled water for groundwater replenishment? I didn't see a lot of that in here, and is that something that is part of the overall plan to look systematically through the city at those streets that are kind of drainage areas that usually we wash the stormwater out to the ocean or into the river? Places there to reinfiltrate groundwater supplies. Is that being done in a comprehensive way?
Well, it's increasing stormwater capture is one of the 5 key elements of the water plan. The initial big projects are to work with the county to do improvements at the Tahunga Dam and other large drainage basins where we can capture stormwater. But we do have other projects that we're going to be considering as part of that, such as what you're talking about. How can we, from a property owner, capture the stormwater on site to recharge the groundwater versus having it run down the street? But right now, that's in the infancy. I know we're going to be working with building and safety and city of planning to make sure that we're going to be able to, as part of designing projects, to allow that to happen. Right now, there are some restrictions as far as what the building code allows.
Right, and I know there's some setback issues, and I know the Green Team is looking at that as well, but I think that's going to be critical for us because we get a lot of bang for the buck just where we strategically put those reinfiltration streets if we can. Okay.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Grohl.
Quick things. One is to follow up on the apartments. I know even in the condos, and I don't know with the building and safety, when I owned my condo, they did not have individual meters, and I don't know in the building and safety and planning when they are approving either condo conversions or track maps, that there's a requirement as well as part of that, because it was not, at the time, again, these were built, probably in the 70s, but whether or not I'd be interested to see in the building and safety and with you all. The other is you talked about driveways and about the permeable, and I just went through a frustrating experience with a business in my district trying to do some green things, and there was, there's new products, and there's same thing is happening with project up at Tree People, and the challenges with fire department. And so I don't know if I know part of the green building team, but they're dealing with a lot of different items. I'd really like to see us look at, and maybe it is a ad hoc group of people that includes Public Works, Fire Department, Building and Safety, and Planning, to look at those areas, because it took them, I don't want to tell you how long, I mean months to get anyone to even comment, and it seems like there's different opinions depending on which department you ask. So if you are a builder or you are a homeowner and trying to do the right thing, there is no clear delineation of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So Doug, maybe we can follow up with that.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, just for your information, DWP just entered into a letter of agreement with the Tree People organization. As we develop projects, we want to work with them so that we can look at capturing on-site stormwater, just so, we're not going to plan now to all of a sudden just have it run down the street going to a storm drain. So we're being very active now, working with them, moving forward.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a note and file. Am I
Yes, it's a
correct?
progress report, so we'll
thank
be
you.
bringing these in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute, there was an item, there was one person who wanted to speak on this. Heinrich Kiefer. I'm sorry,
Sure.
before we go on.
Very briefly, my name is Heinrich Keifer. I'm a 30-year plumbing contractor and a 12-year member of the International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials. And at one meeting of the organization, it was brought to our attention that water urinals require monthly maintenance in order for proper use. I understand that one of the universities had some testing in this, and they had several incidences of the drain pipes becoming prematurely clogged. So I would ask that you consider implementing a solid maintenance schedule and perhaps running a camera down a couple of these 2-inch lines. They have some mini cameras that will actually service that line before you have failures throughout the city.
And what location was that?
Food for thought. I don't know if it was USC. It was one of the schools that had urinals under test, and something would be good to bring in some experts on this, just to make sure that if you fail to maintain them with the cartridge that goes in them, and you're not supposed to put a lot of water in there and things like that. You're supposed to let the cartridge, the chemical, break down. I understand it was a buildup, just like your arteries. Was that
Yeah,
kind of thing?
yeah.
And that would be like, suicide, because, as a novice, you say, well, this is the greatest thing, save a lot of water. On the other hand, if you have to replace pipes down the road, it's great for the plumbers, but it's going to cost the city a lot of money.
Okay, thank you very much for your input.
Thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
the plumbing code has addressed those issues, and there's very strict requirements as to both ventilation and secondary piping should the business owner take away the waterless urinal and replace it with
The water,
another one.
yeah.
So
Thank you.
we're pretty aware of that.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's a note and file. Thank you. Okay, item number 3. Who's here to speak on item number 3?
Board of Public, Bureau of Sanitation report on tire recycling cleanup grants.
Before you get started, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things, because I'm in one of the districts where we are disproportionately affected by illegally dumped tires. And one thing I'll just tell you off the top is this, as a reference in my notes, the city currently maintains free used tire recycling drop-off service at all 6 sanitation district yards throughout the city.
Correct.
Now, I've worked for the city since 1990, and I didn't even know that. So, to me, that screams for more communication and outreach, not just to the council members, but you may know that we have a lot of recycled tire businesses in South Los Angeles, and direct communication with them and their patrons would probably be a really good use of, your energy and your effort. Obviously, I'm going to vote to authorize to apply for the grant, but I hope when you do that, that you design these aspects of educating people beyond, in a very targeted way.
Yes.
Because if I didn't know about, dropping off service, then, I should probably be the second one to know. You're the first, I'd be the second, because it's such a big problem in our districts. So why don't you go ahead and make your report?
Okay, let me start. Good morning, council members. My name is Alan Wayne, working for Bureau of Sanitation. Today, this board reports to request authority to apply for the grant funding from the California Integrated Waste Management Board.
Well, let me just interrupt you for a second. I'm obviously going to vote to authorize you to apply, and I don't know if Mr. Garcetti says yes, Ms. Gruhl, but I want to just have you take what I said back
Absolutely.
to the department, because obviously something's not getting through to the people who are dumping the tires and the stores that are doing the recycling. In some cases, some of the people who do business with them go out and dump tires just around the corner from where the store is. So I'd like for you to come back to me, or at least talk with my staff person, Jeff Catalano there, and tell us how within the context of this grant you intend, or the department intends to close the gap in communication on this.
Okay.
And maybe we should do a heavy promotion event in council districts 8, 9, possibly 15 and 1, where we have the heaviest tire dumping in the entire city.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
can you meet with him and do that?
Yes.
Okay, this is Jeff Catalano right there. Okay, great, thanks.
All right. So,
We'll approve this.
okay.
So,
All right.
you're fine, stop while you're ahead. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, item number 4.
Item number 4 is DWP report requesting authority to execute a power purchase agreement with Willow Creek Energy. We have staff from DWP and the CAO.
Good morning. My name is Brian Koch. I'm with DWP, the Manager of Resource Development. This contract is for renewable energy, a wind farm in northern Oregon. It's for a 15-year term. It's 72 megawatts of wind, which is 48 turbines. It'll provide the DWP with about 0.8% of our energy, which is 0.8% of our 20% goal for 2010.
What percentage again?
Percentage
again?
It's 0.8% out of our 20 toward our 20%. This will. It's an operational date the end of this year, December 31st. It needs to go in and be fully constructed and operational this year to obtain all the production tax credits.
There's a couple of scenarios, I think 3, depending on the availability of the production tax credits.
Correct.
And whether or not the farm gets completed. And I guess the third one is the city could actually opt to buy the facility. Would you just walk us through each one of those scenarios very quickly?
Basically, the facility, if it's fully operational by the end of the year, then the pricing is as shown on, it's about $77 to start, and then it escalates. If a
What's the likelihood that it's going to be completed by the end of 2008?
2008. As of yesterday, all the wind turbines have been installed. There's 48 wind turbines. They're all physically at the site. We got pictures yesterday of the last one being installed. So really all that has to happen now is wiring and transformer and substation
So
installation.
what if they told you it's going to be ready to go by the end of 2008?
Oh, they fully expect it'll be done. Physically, the progress has been very good. So we don't anticipate having to use any of the other scenarios.
So then that kind of flows into scenario 3, that if it's actually done by 2008, it's possible that the city could opt to purchase the facility? Is that logical?
No, it's in reverse. If the facility wasn't done by 2008,
The
then
city
we would
would
have
purchase
the
it.
city could
So
purchase
since it is done,
since it is done, the power purchase agreement, the 15-year term, would likely be the way we would get the energy.
Okay.
So there's very high likelihood, unless some event happens, probably with the substation, that this will be fully operational well before December 31st.
Okay.
The production tax credit issue, therefore, it'll be a focus for future contracts especially, but it really shouldn't affect this facility. This is in the Oregon area of the Columbia River Gorge. It has a high capacity factor in excess of 30%, which is a very good capacity factor for wind.
Okay.
That's the basics of it.
All right. Did you want to add to that?
Bill Koenig with the CAO's office. We have reviewed the proposal, and we do, in fact, recommend approval of it. For the committee's information, at the present time, if you include this proposed contract and for other contracts the department has obtained or is in the process of obtaining, they will achieve 14.6% of their generation through renewable sources in an attempt to get to that 20% goal. So that's pretty good.
Great. We're also joined by Mr. Cardenas. Do any other, Mr. Garcetti?
Real briefly, obviously, a lot of the price depends on the extension of the tax credits on this. Do we know if there's any specific legislation that's pending that we can get behind? I know last year we did a resolution on something related, which is a clean energy renewable bond, but is there anything that's being proposed in Congress right now, or anything we can put on our federal lobbying?
My understanding is there's been lots of proposals because of the sort of uncertainty of the future leadership. I don't think that any of them have been advanced too far. The latest we've heard from the lobbying staff is that it'll probably have to be handled next year. It could be retroactively applied back to January, and it has happened in the past if this were delayed, the project.
Okay. We keep us abreast, and we'll be sure to adopt a city position if there's anything that is formally introduced or is moving with any momentum.
Any other comments?
No,
Okay, thank you. All right, that is...
I have.
Oh, you do, sorry. Turn my
Sorry about
head
that. I'll
fast.
speak up next time.
Yeah, be fast.
All right. When it comes to, it says 0.8% to the renewable portfolio standard of our goal of 20% by 2010. When would this 0.8% wind energy come online and contribute to our electrical capacity?
The COD, or the commercial operation date, is this December 31st. We expect test energy to start arriving in November, meaning as they starting up the turbines, we actually start getting energy a little bit early before they commission the entire facility. So this will be fully operational throughout 2009 and beyond.
Okay. All right. And then also, what is our current blended rate at the Department of Water and Power?
Blended renewable rate or blended?
Blended, period. What are our ratepayers, what is our cost that the ratepayers are having to deal with? Maybe need some help back there.
Maybe our rates manager, or mates folks can tell you that one.
Jeff Peltola, Director of Budget Rates and Efficiency. It's about 10.5 cents right now is our average retail rate across all rate classes.
Okay. And what is the cost relative to those terms of this energy that we're buying?
It starts at $77 or 7.7 cents.
There
Sorry.
you go.
Sorry, we're doing the other way. 7.7 cents. It escalates at 2.25%, and it would be
But in all fairness, the snapshot rate of today compared to what we're paying for energy today is, our blended rate is 10.5 cents, and this is 7.7 cents.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And one last question, the reliability, what is the reliability factor on this? What are the likelihood of this providing energy when we need it most?
There's two aspects to that. It's a load factor, a capacity factor, which is a 30%. So 30% of the time we will get energy overall. There's a load different seasonal pattern, both winter and summer. And then we also have an availability factor of equipment that's required by the contractor, by the company to make sure that the turbines operate in excess of, there's a rolling average, but it's about 95% of the time. So
And there's something that people overlook tremendously when it comes to energy and getting energy. People get all giddy because there's, the ability for somebody to produce a gazillion megawatts of wind energy or turbine provided energy, but power lines. Is all of the infrastructure in place to get it from point A to point B?
There's transmission in the this will have to be delivered through the Bonneville Power Association transmission system. There is capacity in that system. There'll be point-to-point transmission that will take the energy to the top of our DC line that the department owns 40% of, I believe. So it goes effectively to mid-C, which is the top of the DC line. From the DC line, it comes down,
Which is ours.
to the Nevada-Oregon border, and then it's BPA again beyond that.
Okay, now, I'm sorry, because of that, I need to ask you another question. When it comes to the rate, 7.7 cents, does that include point A to point B costs, or is that just what we're contracted to pay with the energy producer?
That's the energy production cost. The transmission costs will be on top of that.
Who knows the answer to what the transmission cost component is to this energy?
Because it's we have to decide the best way to deliver it. We have only an estimate at this time. It's probably
I'll deal with an estimate.
It's about 1.5 to 1.7 cents.
Okay. And our blended rate cost includes, to be fair, our blended rate cost includes point-to-point, all told, wraparound. That's what our cost is, 10.5 cents blended.
Right, when I say 10.5 cents, that's
Includes all the stuff.
that's everything, that's the average retail rate that all of our customers are paying.
Okay. So this is actually more on the order of 9.4 cents estimate.
Low nines.
Okay. I think it's important. I mean, there might be constituents listening to this. I don't want them to believe that we're getting it at a true 7.7 cents. That's a contracted amount. But by the time they flick on their switch at their home or their business, the department is incurring about 9.4 cents in cost as today's estimates go. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cardenas. All right, that will be a note and file.
I should know it's recommended approved for the...
Okay,
Yes,
recommend
that's right.
approval, all right.
Move.
Okay.
Great, let's move that.
Item number 5,
5, who's here to report on 5?
DWP report in response to motion Gruel Perry Labange regarding compact fluorescent light bulbs and their distribution.
Okay, I have a couple of quick questions on this one before you get started. I know that you, the department, were supposedly working with council offices to let us help you distribute, and I want to hear about that. But I also am concerned that I'm not sure why the department would have to hire a contractor to distribute the bulbs. As many events as we all have. I mean, I've got one coming up where I'm sure I'll have 2,000 people there. We have them like every week. So like, I don't really see why you need a contractor to do that. You're revising your distribution plan because it appears that it didn't work out. There's some reference in here to not having, I guess, a comfort level on the good faith effort of the potential contractor. So tell me why you would need a vendor to do what we can all help you do anyway,
Okay.
and probably do it for free.
There's a kind of a multiple part to what we've been doing on CFLs. Since 2006, we've distributed about 500,000 bulbs, 500,000, many of the ways that you're talking about, which is through the different events that you have. I think it was about 8 months ago, we finally got our contract to buy all of our CFLs. Many of the problems, your office as well as all the council offices, we want to give out as many CFLs as possible. They're so cost effective. I mean, from a cost perspective, back to what Councilmember Cardenas was asking the questions, from an energy savings, CFLs cost us about 1 cent a kilowatt hour. Versus, we just talked about 7.7, even on natural gas, it's about 7 cents. So it's the most cost-effective thing to do. Back to our distribution. We now have an inventory of bulbs. So any of these different free events, and I know we do a number of them throughout the year, we're given those bulbs as long as, we know that they're going to be our customers, which is the types of events you're talking about. Through this summer, much due to our frustration, even my personal frustration, on not being able to get the overall distribution done. We used our own staff. We used our customer service. We used our water utility workers over 4 different weekends, and we concentrated where we have our low-income and lifeline customers through all 15 council districts, and we distributed 184,000 CFLs over 4 different weekends. So that was a pretty good start for us in what we're trying to do. The contract is actually going to be something that should take probably 2 to 3 months, and we'll actually put 2 CFLs on every single doorknob in Los Angeles. And that's just the scope of that, and the reason we're using a contractor is because we're talking about distributing 2.4 million bulbs in that short period of time. And that's where we need the contractor to do it. We feel the cost is going to be, we should be coming back to our board. As you said, we had a problem with the good faith effort. We've now reissued that RFP. We're going to be going to our board in the second board meeting in October for approval. We think the cost is going to be probably something less than $2 a doorknob. So in other words, we're going to be looking at maybe $1 a CFL. So the cost of this overall is going to be, again, in that 1.5 cent range. It's going to be very cost effective for us to do. So it's really the scope of what we're looking at to try to get it to all of our customers.
Okay. Let me just make a quick suggestion to you, incorporate this in your strategy. Because in areas like mine, the southern part of the district, Janice, Bernard, Herb Wesson, and probably in the first 2, when you have yards that are gated, and oftentimes they have very aggressive dogs, you won't be able to get to their door. So you'll have to have a fallback strategy. A couple of suggestions that I could make to you would be the following, that maybe you do some outreach to all 5th grade classes, because 5th graders tend to be older and a little more responsible, and have a day where you make sure you have a bulb for each child to take home to the parent, maybe in a bag with some information. You could have a mobile DWP van. Now, this is a double-edged sword because I don't have a lot of grocery stores, but there are some stores that are embedded deeper in an area, in a neighborhood, so that you're going to catch the people who actually live in the area. And I think each one of us could give you probably one store where you could go that's large enough where you could capture, most of the people who live in the immediate area. I mean, some of us border on other cities, but I know I could give you a recommendation further west so that you make sure to hit people who live in Los Angeles.
Sure.
And it's a faster way to do a distribution because you don't have to move around as much. And I'm sure even parts of where Mr. Cardenas represents, there are gated yards with people who have pit bulls and Rottweilers and things like that, and you're just not going to get in. So, and it would be a shame for those people to miss out. But, if you do a multi-pronged approach, which is, hit the schools, have the kids take something home to the parents, make sure the kids are old enough so that they'll remember. In 5th grade, 6th grade, that tends to be a good age.
Right.
And then, hit the large places where people are shopping, and then think about doing distribution at some of the larger religious institutions, and each one of us could give you a couple of them where you could just start and just be there in the parking lot, and then the pastor, the minister, whatever, can announce it during a service and invite everyone to go out there and get their free bulb. And do it over. Some churches, particularly Catholic churches, have services all day long. Starting at 7 in the morning and going till the nighttime. You could literally hit thousands of people in one day just by doing that.
Right.
Ms. Perry, and as you may recall, Ms. Perry, I think you remember we were in South Los Angeles for a hearing on this item a couple years ago where we talked about it and asked in the distribution, and the motion we introduced was in 2006. So you're frustrated. We are particularly frustrated because we really wanted, there's a savings for both the individual and for the department, and why we introduced that motion in 2006. The challenge you had stated at one point, not today, but previously, had been the purchase of them and getting them. Are there any issues with that anymore?
We have the bulbs. We have a contract for the bulbs. We actually got a great price, $1.25 a bulb. So, no, we have those bulbs. Now the challenge is to get them distributed out to the customers.
And I know there were several articles in the past several months about the issue of their where you put them afterwards, and the mercury and all of that. How how are we handling that as well?
We've got 31 different sites within the city of Los Angeles where they can be disposed of. There's 11 Home Depots. Earlier you were talking about the 6 sanitation sites, as well as our 14 customer service centers. All of those are going to have receptacles of where the CFLs can be put when their service life is complete. In addition, after we go through this distribution, our next plan is to go out and do the manufacturer buy down. So in other words, we'll work with the manufacturers to lower that cost so when people go to any store to buy them that they'll be reduced. One of the things we're going to do as part of that program is to look to get more sites similar to what Home Depot's doing where people can place their used CFLs to make sure they're disposed of properly.
And when you distribute them, so I know we came to a senior center recently, and it was great. I mean, they were very popular with those seniors. Is there documentation with that says where you should dispose of them?
Yeah, we're going to put that in the bag.
Okay, because in this instance, there weren't. I think they just handed
them out, right.
the light bulb. So I don't know if at any point, slip of paper, whatever how you put that in, because particularly in the bulb package
right.
itself, because
Lucia Alvarez, Manager of Residential Energy Efficiency. Yes, as part of our distribution process, we will be including a brochure which will talk about the proper disposal of CFLs, and will include a listing of safe disposal sites, and this will be in English and in Spanish.
okay, but we're already distributing. We would distribute 160,000. Those were not distributed with them.
At present, no.
Okay.
But that is part of the
So is it? I mean, and I know in Ms. Perry, so she's going to have these events. When will those pamphlets or others be ready?
we anticipate within the next few weeks. We're in the process of putting together a flyer, but for the large distribution process, there will be an actual brochure that we've already prepared and are ready to go to print with.
And no disrespect, but we could do a flyer right now.
Right. Sure.
Okay, so I think if we're going to distribute in the next couple weeks, we should have that flyer ready to go and hand out with those.
And I think that's a good idea to make sure anytime it goes out that we hand that out with the CFL, as well as we'll look at putting it on our website. I think that's a great idea.
I think that's very, very important. Thank you.
Mr. Cardenas.
What is the annual savings in energy from one of these light bulbs?
From each...
My point is this.
Okay.
The sooner we get them out, the sooner we start reducing our consumption, bulb by bulb, and then across the city dramatically.
I agree.
So my question is mainly to that. But what is the efficiency? I mean, what is the savings on a bulb? What is the savings on 1,000 bulbs? I mean, give me something relative so that we can justify, so we can help the community understand the justification of spending $500,000 or so to give out bulbs.
Right.
This is the perfect example of where the press could get it completely wrong and make us all look like a bunch of boondoggle supporting politicians and bureaucrats. But the fact of the matter is, if we take a year and a half to get 2.4 million bulbs out, or spend $500,000 to get that number of bulbs out in 3 months, give us a relative understanding of what are we looking at. The overall, is it an overall net negative for us to spend $500,000 on a consultant, or is it overall net positive, just in dollars?
Sure.
And then, of course, we have to, let's not even throw in the fact about the greenhouse gas emissions and things of that nature, because whether we like it or not, half of every minute of electricity that anybody spends is coming from coal facilities in the city. And that's the average at best around the country anyway, for any municipal electrical authority or private.
Each one of these bulbs over their life will save 500 kilowatt hours over the life. 500 kilowatt hours, to give you an idea, is about the amount of energy consumption in our average residential in a month. So it's going to save all that energy. When we look at the 2.4 million bulbs, and I think I did the calculation yesterday, we think that if all 2.4 million go out and are implemented, it's going to save in energy costs for the department and for our customers, obviously, roughly $900,000 in fuel costs. When you compare, again, I go back to that 1.1 cent versus 7 cent, you work out the math, it comes out to about $900,000 a month that you're going to save. It's incredible savings of these. It's one of the best investments the department can make is to put these CFLs
So
out.
who saves $900,000 a month?
Our customers will save the $900,000 a month in fuel costs instead of the marginal, and when I do that, obviously, I mean,
Why are you saying fuel costs? Why are you using that term?
because we will not have that energy, so we will not have to burn, and I use as a marginal rate our natural gas. We will not have to burn natural gas to produce that power. Rather, that power will be saved. So the amount of power that we have to produce for our customers will be less. And so it'll be roughly $900,000 per month in natural gas that we will not have to burn.
Okay, do me a favor.
Sure.
By the time you come to council, so that the press can see this and hopefully they'll hold their story off until
Okay.
we get to council, is develop some kind of chart or something like that.
Sure.
And then show on a month-to-month basis.
Okay.
If we take a year and a half to distribute X number of millions of bulbs, which is
Okay.
our goal, right? How much we're saving
Okay.
per month
Sure.
if we get them out now, like if we were able to have magic and they're all out now and everybody
Okay.
screws them into their sockets.
Okay.
How much we're saving, we're trying to get to that goal, and how much we're losing if we take our time to get those bulbs out and into the sockets so that we can expend less energy as a city, as a household, and as a community. And the funny thing about it, correct me if I'm wrong, is we give these bulbs away, or whether or not somebody goes to the store and retrofits their whole house with these kinds of squiggly-looking bulbs, the bottom line is, no matter how you slice it, the cost is passed on to the community at the end of the day. For example, if the Department of Water and Power has to go out and find, purchase, create X amount of energy a year because this is how much we use, then what they have to do is they have to cost average it out or what have you, and the bottom line is the people who pay it are the customers, right? Based on usage, but the bottom line is they have to figure out a way to pass all of that global cost as a department to the people who pay the bill, right? And if we use less, then inevitably people pay less because they use less, but at the same time the department doesn't have to pass the average cost. The average cost to pass on to the customers is less. Isn't that the case?
If you look at this from a macro sense of how much the department's going to spend, and without doing the CFLs, they're going to spend a certain amount of money to serve all of our customers. Let's just call it
Exactly.
$2.5 billion.
Exactly.
And to the impact that we put these in, we will then spend $2.4 billion, just as an example. So we'll spend less money to serve our customers with this. Now, we're going to have less amount of kilowatt hours as well.
Yes.
But we will, in total, the citizens of Los Angeles will spend less money on the power to serve their homes and businesses.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah, and so, and we have rate mechanisms to ensure that that happens. And going back to your example, even if a customer has a incandescent bulb that they just bought, it is more cost-effective for that customer to take that bulb out, throw it away, and put in the CFL because they will start saving money on that CFL
Even
right
if
away.
the old bulb is still good. Don't even
Correct.
wait for it to burn out.
Correct, correct.
Just take it
Right,
out,
right.
replace it with a more
Correct.
efficient bulb.
Correct.
And even though you threw a bulb away that's still good enough to
Right.
use, you're going to end up net
Saving money.
positive, saving money.
Correct.
Thank you very
But,
much.
excuse me, one point.
Sure.
On that note, is that clearly, like you just pointed out in simple layman's basic American English terms, don't wait until your bulbs burn out, just replace them today?
I am fairly confident of that. We'll check on the paperwork that we're putting in, but that very statement, I'm pretty sure.
Please bring that paperwork to the council.
Sure.
All of it. Anything that's put in the bag or that's stapled on or glued
Sure.
to the light bulbs that are going to the public with the light bulbs.
Sure.
Please bring all of that with you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Without objection, that'll be a note and file. Now, I just want to jump quickly ahead to 7, and then we'll go back to 6, and I believe the man behind the curtain, the ultimate brain, Mr. Sanjuro, the man who's pulling all the strings. Or at least thinks he is. That's right. All right. Now, we're going to ask for a report back on this. And I'm just going to suggest that we, oh dear, we have Oh dear, he made a speaker card. Okay. All right, why don't you go ahead and then you speak. Actually, this is not the first time someone's made this motion, as I know you are acutely aware, as you are acutely aware of so many things. So I'm going to ask for a report back so we, thank you. All right. I like that. That's you from you, Ann?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. All right. That we're going to have a report back and consolidate everything so we can do this in one shot. And then we'll put our questions on the record for the report to come back in that format. All right. So why don't I let you, and let's all give him a big hand. Eric Santoro.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Loving you every minute.
I just wanted to quickly share Eric Sanjuro, Councilmember Weezar's office, on behalf of the councilman, a little bit of research that he did into the issue of ombudspeople positions, inspector generals that we have across the city, and other government agencies, just for the committee's information, and also maybe a couple of ideas of how this position could be structured. We have two different types of ombudspeople. Some are human relations. In nature, LAWA has that, LAPD has that. Others serve more of a public interest liaison to the general public. We created one for the city clerk recently. The Office of Finance has a tax advocate. The LAPD has an inspector general. We also have the California Utility Commission, as the motion mentioned, has a ratepayer advocate position, and also LUSD has an inspector general which releases reports about district projects and programs. So there's a couple different ways this could be structured. One idea that occurred to me might be the simplest would be to create a position similar to what we did for the police commission, which started off, I think, 1 or 2 positions, and place it under the Department of Water and Power
In the interest of time, why don't you just share with us what your member would like to see?
At this point, that's really all I wanted to throw out there. Is just
okay. Has he taken a position on what his preference is yet?
No, just throwing out some ideas. So that would be it. That's all I want to share.
Okay, so then why don't you talk to him and find out what his preference would be, and then we can incorporate that in the report too. Okay?
Happy to work with staff on that. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, Mr. Kiefer. Kiefer? I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name. And after Mr. Kiefer, Mr. Camacho, why don't you come on up?
Yes, my name is Heinrich Kiefer. It's actually pronounced with a long I. I'm going to defer my comments, though. I'm only here to suggest that, yes, we are trying to make sure that this whole omnibus thing, this ratepayer advocate type thing, is something that's true. It's going to do its job. We're trying to advocate that council reps, council members appoint some people out in the community. We just want it to be fair, that's all. So that's all I have to say.
Great, thank you. Mr. Camacho, and then Mrs. Garcia.
Humberto Camacho,
Garcia.
member of the BLQ Oversight Committee, the Water and Power, and also member of the Pico Union Neighborhood Council. Your committee, I hope that all the lights on the city buildings are changed already. Number one, to save the energy, hopefully. The second thing, I'm not sure that those are the saving bulbs yet.
They're fluorescent.
Look like the all lights bulbs are already.
Yeah, you know he's right.
So it's going to be a lot of changes, and you can start with your buildings over here.
No, these are fluorescent. When we moved back in 2001, all of City Hall is fluorescent.
All right.
Yep.
Get more information to the neighborhood council because they don't understand that.
You got it.
The other thing that seems to be a little bit confusing is whether or not it's going to be 15 members for the committees for the infrastructure and 15 members for the Lifeline Committee. I'm not certain whether there's going to...
That's item 6. We were going to go back to that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on item 7 right now.
The problem that we have is that we haven't enough information going to the councils or the communities, the churches, so they can start, proposing people for their districts. So I hope that you can send us a communications to all the public, including the schools. And by the way, that was a beautiful suggestion to get the children in the schools to take the balls. Also, you can have the distribution and after the message on Saturday and Sunday, and people will take the balls home.
Oh,
okay.
Great. That's a good idea, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Garcia, did you want to speak?
Remind them that we're going to hear it again in this committee.
Yeah.
But I don't think some of them understand.
Good morning, Ms. Perry, and good morning to the rest of you. As you know, my name is Soledad Garcia, and
We're not going to vote on it.
this, the idea of the ratepayers advocate came up before the Oversight Committee a year ago, and we were very enthusiastic about it, and as you know, we've constantly been talking about it. I thoroughly want to commend the two council people for bringing this forth, and for Eric for working with it. We'll be happy to work with them. You have my paper, and I think enough has been said. Thank you.
Just my apologies to the rest of the speakers. I'm going to go start council.
Start the
My
meeting.
apologies.
Just for the purposes of the report, and this is going to be a note and file item, so we're not voting on this today, but for the purposes of the report, which I'll ask to come back in either 45 or 60 days, I'd like to see the following, and maybe we can consolidate it into 6, and I'll give you copies of the questions afterwards.
Okay.
The purpose of the ombudsman position, the tasks that are proposed, what the difference is from the ombudsman position versus the 3 DWP oversight committees that are proposed. Is it still appropriate if you have an ombudsman to have 3 independent oversight committees and an ombudsman position conducting reviews of DWP? Please discuss the pluses and minuses of that. Has the department conducted a feasibility study associated with implementing an ombudsman position? Where would the funding for that come from? And whether or not the department has conducted an analysis of what it would cost to maintain an ombudsman position or division within the department. And just for some further analysis, the CLA, how effective has the state's Division of Ratepayer Advocates been in meeting its objectives as a more on-point comparison dealing with the same subject matter? So that'll be a note and file. And now we'll jump back to item number 6. I believe we had one card from Daniel Weissman.
Madam Chair, is it a note and file or simply a report back? Hold it
I'm
to
sorry,
continue.
that's right. 7 is continue and report back.
45 days?
45 days, I think, is reasonable, yeah.
Okay.
All right, then let's go jump back to 6. Again,
Staff report or speaker
I'll let
card?
Mr. Weissman speak
Okay.
first, and you can run the clock on that, and then we can get the report.
Is this valid in the absence of a quorum?
Yes.
All right.
Go ahead.
I'll wait, and you can reset the
Please
clock.
Go ahead.
I'm
Clock's
used to
running.
people paying attention to me. I'm sure you are,
Mr.
too.
Weissman,
Your time's
we're
running.
paying attention.
No,
Please
ma'am.
go.
Are you ready now? Thank you. You have before you a document, which I hope you've had the opportunity to read, which I submitted several days ago. And I want to talk to the point you were just making on the issue number 7. There are so many oversight committees. And the original oversight committee was the original oversight committee was formed by the Department of Water and Power Neighborhood Council MOU. That was found to be limited to observing the MOU. The neighborhood councils have a oversight committee as well, which will be there to serve as the ombudsman, as the advocate of the customers of the Department of Water and Power. That council, when formed by the city, that special oversight committee, should include a number of members from the neighborhood councils, because they are the real citizens' representatives. And I hope you will include that in your recommendations to the full council.
Thank you very much. Ms.
Oh, no, wait,
Garcia,
wait, wait.
you're our next speaker.
At 1 second, I wanted to say thank you to you.
Great, thank you. Ms.
You're very
Garcia, you're our next speaker.
Good morning again. My name is Soledad Garcia, and the DWP is to be commended for organizing and providing the initial structure to the administrative council-appointed stakeholders and low-income oversight committees. I think that's before you. The Neighborhood Council Oversight Committee looks forward to the start of the committees, and the council, City Council, we thank you for the support that you've been giving for the development of the committees. As you know, we have been working right along with the idea of oversight, although it has not always been the pleasure of the DWP. However, at the current moment, the MOU committee has consistently maintained the. Thank you.
Did you? No, she just.
No.
She's resetting it.
You go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The MOU committee has consistently maintained the integrity of the MOU by communicating with the general manager and staff on the need for timely notifications and the following timelines as related to the budget and significant issues. This is all related to the idea of working with a type of oversight that that our MOU was empowered to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. I just have a couple of comments since we did 7 before we did 6. You know, the recommendation today is to move this ahead, and I guess, do you have a problem with that?
No.
I just want to make sure we're not sort of obviating what we're trying to do in 7.
No, I think you could actually move forward item number 6, and if there needs to be an adjustment later with the ombudsman, we could do that at that point.
All right, okay.
It could be auxiliary if we need to do that or
I'm
what.
willing to vote to approve the establishment of the PRP, WIP Oversight Committee and CIOC and the committees. I don't want to go
The
through all
CLO, yeah.
the issues. Yes, that's right, and if Ms. Gruhl doesn't object.
No, I just have one comment. I want to make sure that, one, there's no duplication of effort, and as we set these up to really have clear delineation of their responsibilities, and 2, the motion that I seconded for Greg Smith, which was on the issue of revenues generated going in for infrastructure and so forth, that be discussed as well. That was part of, in these committees, be established that they would look at that as well.
Certainly, we'll make sure that they cover those
That
areas
was
as
on
well.
the October 30th, 2007 motion that was introduced.
Okay.
And in the report back on item 7, if you can reflect what we've done here in 6 and make sure that that is incorporated into the analysis of the ombudsman's position to make sure that, you know, these are not in conflict with each other or diminish one or the other aspect of this.
Certainly.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Motion to
thank you.
approve. We'll approve this without objection. Okay, now we're at the end of the agenda. This is a public comment period. Ms. Garcia, I think you wanted to come back up on public comment. Anyone else wishing to comment on items that are on the agenda, this is the time to do so. And Madam Clerk, if you can reset the clock for Ms. Garcia, please.
Thank you. Soledad Garcia here, and thank you again, Ms. Perry, members. What I am going to read is basically, and you have it in front of you, a summary of the meeting that was called by the DWP, Mr. Nahai. And the purpose, the object was to discuss the future of the MOU, and that's why we went. Previously, the Oversight Committee had required and had requested a meeting, not specifically on this target, but on the general MOU in general. However, this being the case, we addressed this issue. There were several very important people there, but the gist of the whole thing was that the single item that was discussed and addressed by Mr. Nahai was his opposition to the Neighborhood Council representatives advising and advocating under the umbrella of the DWP MOU umbrella. Mr. Nahai read Section 8 of the MOU and interpreted that to mean that the advocacy was not the purpose of the MOU. The DWP committee members presented its agenda relating to the implementation of the MOU. That was a separate attachment. Everyone agreed, however, that the MOU Oversight Committee would protect the integrity of the MOU, and that the chair read the position statement to the DWP Board of Commissioners on July 2nd. You have that as a separate attachment, and I'm not going to read that. But that was what was presented to the board as our take on what had been a reaction to the whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you very much, everyone. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Ms. Garcia.